Okay. Every day on the subreddit, there is a news for Destiny article or post. Post shit there if you want me to read it on stream. Upvote the thing you're most interested in. Downvote things that suck. Post whatever you want me to read, and then we will. And yeah, that's what I'll do. One of these per day. He's only going to read one? Yeah, of course I'm only going to read one. What the fuck do you think I'm going to do? Do you think I'm going to go through an entire fucking post of articles every single day? I feel like I consistently see you say stupid fucking shit. Bye. Take a break, okay? Jesus. It's the same shit we did yesterday. You think if people post 30 articles in a day, we're going to go through every single fucking article? It took us an hour to do Chomsky's one yesterday. Holy Christ. You're on break for a month. This is an article on The Economist called The Horrible Housing Blunder. Home ownership is the West's biggest economic policy mistake. Economies can suffer both sudden crashes and chronic diseases. Housing markets in the rich world have caused both types of problem. $1 trillion of dud mortgages blew up the financial system in 2007 and 2008, but just as pernicious is the creeping dysfunction that housing has created over decades. Vibrant cities without space to grow, aging homeowners sitting in half-empty homes who are keen to protect their view, and a generation of young people who cannot easily afford to rent or buy think capitalism has let them down. As our special report this week explains, much of the blame lies with warped housing policies that date back to the Second World War, which are intertwined with an infatuation with home ownership. This is a huge part. I don't know if this is listed like officially anywhere, but there's like this idea of like the American dream. Wait, what was that? Ethos of the United States? I don't know if this will be listed here, but here. The meaning of the American dream has changed over the course of history and includes both personal components, such as home ownership and upward mobility, and a global vision. I think that like owning a home is like the American dream. That's like literally like the goal for a lot of Americans is to own a home. That means you've made it. They have caused, as our special report this week explains, much of the blame lies with warped housing policies that date back to the Second World War, which are intertwined with an infatuation with home ownership. They have caused one of the rich world's most serious and longest-running economic failures. A fresh architecture is urgently needed. At the root of that failure is a lack of building, especially near the thriving cities in which jobs are plentiful. From Sydney to Sydenham, I don't know where the fuck this is. Hold on. In London? Is this like a neighborhood in London or like a suburb of London or? Oh, I'm going to guess it's that. Okay. From Sydney to Sydenham, fiddly regulations protect an elite of existing homeowners and prevent developers from building the skyscrapers and flats that the modern economy demands. The resulting high rents and house prices make it hard for workers to move to where the most productive jobs are and have slowed growth. Overall housing costs in America absorb 11% of GDP, up from 8% in the 1970s. If just 3 big cities, New York, San Francisco, and San Jose, relaxed planning rules, America's GDP could be 4% higher. That is an enormous prize. As well as being merely inefficient, housing markets are deeply unfair. Over a period of decades, falling interest rates have compounded inadequate supply and led to a surge in prices. In America, the frenzy is concentrated in thriving cities. In other rich countries, average national prices have soared, especially in English-speaking countries where punting on property is a national sport. The financial crisis did not kill off the trend. In Britain, inflation-adjusted house prices are roughly equal to their pre-crisis peak, while real wages are no higher. In Australia, despite recent falls, prices remain 20% higher than in 2008. In Canada, they're up by half. The soaring cost, when it says up by half in Canada, does that mean up by 50%? I'm going to assume that's what that means. The soaring cost of housing has created gaping inequalities and inflamed both generational and geographical divides. In 1990, a generation of baby boomers with a median age of 35 owned a third of America's real estate by value. In 2019, a similarly sized cohort of millennials aged 31 owned just 4%. Young people's view of housing is out of young people's view that housing is out of reach unless you have rich parents help explain their drift towards millennial socialism. And homeowners of all ages who are trapped in declining places resent the windfall housing gains enjoyed in and around successful cities. In Britain, areas with stagnant housing markets were more likely to vote for Brexit in 2016, even after accounting for differences in income and demography. Demography? You might think fear and envy about housing is part of the human condition. In fact, property pathology has its roots in a shift in public policy in the 50s towards promoting home ownership. Since then, governments have used subsidies, tax breaks, sales of public housing to encourage owner occupation over renting. Politicians on the right have seen home ownership as a way to win votes by encouraging responsible citizenship. Those on the left see housing as a conduit for redistribution and for nudging poorer households to build wealth. This is something that I've fought against for a long time. A lot of people say owning a home is the best path towards building wealth. That is such bullshit. It's something that I see so many financial advisors and so many people on the internet say, building, blah, blah, blah. They conflate two things. They conflate the idea that building a house is the largest portion of a lot of people's wealth with the idea that a house ought to be the largest portion of a lot of people's wealth. This is just not true. There are way better ways to build wealth. There are way more stable ways, way more liquidable ways, way more growing ways. Like the idea that like your primary drive to build wealth should be through owning a home is silly as fuck. Oh my God, did AMD go up? Wait, are the markets open today on Saturday? Closed October 23rd. Oh, never mind. AMD's still going up. God damn, yes. Sorry, okay. So this is so Tom A in YouTube chat. You can get a 30-year fixed rate for a $200,000 house very easily. Then rent out a room to help. Owning property is super important for your overall well-being. Buy your castles. So owning property, to borrow from Marx, private property is good. Personal property of a house is bad. If you want to buy a house and start renting stuff up, if you're going to make this asset generate revenue for you, that's a good thing. You can earn money doing that. And if you want to go down that road, I would recommend that. But if you think that just buying a house to build wealth is a good idea, it's not a good idea. There are plenty of other more reliable ways to build wealth. Do you think housing is one of the most tangible forms of wealth? If I own a bunch of ETFs that don't really do anything for me until I retire, with a house, I have a house. Well, like that's looking at a house as like a thing that you use, like a good or service, I guess, right? If you have a house and you're like using it and that's good, then yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's awesome. Like I have a car, my car depreciates. I'm not going to make any money selling it, but I get a lot of use out of my car. I enjoy my car, and a lot of people get use out of their car because it transports them to work, right? So yeah, there's something to be said for the fact that homeownership is effective simply because it makes people invest rather than relying on them choosing to do so. There's something psychological there. Yeah, sure. So you could say that owning a home is a good way for stupid people to build wealth. But if we're giving advice to people, the advice we give ought to be better, right? Not like, hey, listen to me. You're too stupid to invest a reasonable sum of money every month into a safe mutual fund, so you should buy a house because you're too dumb to do otherwise, right? If I'm giving advice to somebody, I'm going to give advice to somebody they're going to listen to it. I'm not going to give you the worst level advice, assuming you're too dumb to listen to anything higher, right? I think owning your own home allows you to grow. You have a space that is your own. It's not just wealth generation. You can rent a home if you want, or you can rent an apartment. I mean, this space is kind of my own, like as much as any house would be. I mean, I guess I can't like fuck up the walls as much or something, but. What alternatives to home ownership matches the potential 500K home sale exclusion? Wait, what the fuck is that? Destiny, Big Dono. What? That's already been there.
Hey Stephen. I think it's important that YouTube chat knows about this.
I literally turn links off in chat so that you can donate. I'm guessing a home sale exclusion is probably some rule where you can sell a house at some point and save money off the capital gains or whatever, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's nice, but I mean, I'd still rather have, I don't know if that would overcome like all the loss and maintenance and everything else you have to spend to upkeep a home, when you could just be investing in funds as well. This is good advice during bull markets, but not everyone wants the volatility of the market with the bulk of their equity. The bulk of your equity invested in the market is way healthier than the bulk of your equity invested in a single piece of property, though. Destiny, if I spend a roughly equivalent amount of money on rent or on a mortgage, isn't it better to put that money into a mortgage because more of it is going to equity? The equity that you get on a mortgage is going to take you a long time to build. You have like no equity in the first 5 years. Equity takes a long time to build. Also, you could be building equity in a portfolio where you're just depositing money and investing in mutual funds, right? And that equity is super liquidable. You can cash it out anytime you need. Liquidity is how easy is it to convert it to cash. Houses are very hard to convert to cash. You have to take out loans against their value, basically, and then you got to pay interest to sometimes to yourself, sometimes to a bank. It depends on the structure of the loan. But yeah, it's the word is liquid, not liquidable. It is liquidable. This is liquidable. Oh, liquidable is something that can be turned into money. A house is liquidable, or a fund is liquidable, but this is liquid. Wait, is liquidable a word? Or did I just make that up? You have liquidity in a liquid market. Liquidity is how easy it is to turn something into cash, right? You'd say a fund is liquid as well. Wouldn't you say
you have unexpected costs that come with home ownership as well.
Yeah. You'd say a fund is liquid. A fund is liquid. It possesses liquidity. So a fund has more liquidity than a house. A fund is more liquid than a house. That's correct, right? Thanks, Cryptblast. Okay, sorry. Yeah, okay. Fund is liquid and possesses liquidity. Okay. So funds are nice because they are more liquid than houses are. They possess more liquidity, meaning more easily converted to cash or cash equivalent. Okay. But if my investment goes to shit on one hand, at least I'm not homeless. I mean, it's very rare that the entire market will just die. That shouldn't happen. Like, I don't know. And I mean, you could lose all the value out of your house as well. That's possible too.
You're a genius, dude!
Poo poo pee pee.
Okay. Under what scenario should someone buy? I think if you want to buy a house, I'll probably buy a house at some point. If you want to buy a house, you're buying it's like a luxury thing. Like so for instance, like when I buy cars now, I like new cars because I like to be my car and I like to own a new car that's my car. But that's like a personal choice. I'm not doing that as like the wisest financial decision. That's just something I'm willing to pay a premium for. Owning a house is also something that you can pay a premium for. So like, well, I guess I own a house right now, right? Is like you pay a premium for it. Rachel and Nathan live in it. I don't have to deal with anything else or worry about them getting kicked out, blah, 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 or anything like that because I own the house, right? Well, the bank owns it. I pay the note. So I think that like you can buy a house. Just don't fool yourself into thinking, oh man, I'm going to save up all this money because the best thing I can do for myself financially is to go buy a house. That's going to like put me in a really good financial position. It's not necessarily true. That's all I'm saying. You don't treat houses are not financial instruments, and people seem to con a lot of poor people into thinking that. What kind of car do you have? I have a Ford Focus RS. I fucking love it. Do you make a distinction between a house and a condo? Not at the moment. I don't know if there needs to be a distinction made there in terms of what I'm talking about, but okay. Is your house paid off? No, it's like 27 years. I need to refinance. I need to do that. I need to spend time doing that because the interest rates right now are fucking unbelievable. I think you can refinance for like 2.25 or some stupid fucking shit. Oof. I bought a Camaro SS, would run circles around that economy car with a turbo. I don't know what Camaro SS model you have. I'm not sure if it's faster than a Focus RS though. But I mean, we can look it up. Fuck Camaros anyway. You're gonna trigger the fuck out of me. Your position is renting is better than buying a house. Yeah, I think renting is better, generally. The 2019 Camaro's quarter mile is 12.4. The Focus is, I'm pretty sure it's like 13.5. Okay, maybe an SS is faster. Fuck you. If we have to turn it all, though, you'll fly off the road. Suck my dick.
Your conversation with Ice Poseidon on this issue changed how I viewed renting versus owning.
Thanks, bud. Okay. I'd be interested in your take on the legal video. He likens Trump to Caesar, crossing the Rubicon, and endorses Biden as the only candidate that can restore rule of law. Maybe. Okay, let me continue reading. The soaring cost... Oh, wait. In Australia, despite recent falls... Okay. The soaring cost of housing has created gaping inequalities and inflamed both generational and geographical divides. In 1990, a generation of baby boomers with a median age of 35 owned a third of America's real estate. We've read about this. You might think fear and envy about housing is part of the condition. Okay, sorry. Okay. Those on the left see... Okay, right here. Politicians on the right have seen home ownership as a way to win votes by encouraging responsible citizenship. Those on the left see housing as a conduit for redistribution and for nudging poorer households to build wealth. These arguments are overstated. It's hard to show whether property ownership makes better citizens. If you ignore leverage, it's usually better to own shares than to own homes. And the cult of owner occupation has huge costs. Those who own homes often become NIMBYs who resist development in an effort to protect their investments. Oh, this is something I've said a lot. One of the reasons why it's so hard to develop land is because of people that own houses that are trying to protect their investments, meaning they're always going to vote against the better of like the city. They're always going to vote against more development because it's going to lower their houses, right? Lower the cost of their houses, which is annoying. NIMBY stands for not in my backyard. Data crunching by The Economist suggests that the number of new houses constructed per person in the rich world has fallen by half since the 1960s. Because supply is constrained and the system is skewed towards ownership, most people feel they risk being left behind if they rent. As a result, politicians focus on subsidizing marginal buyers, as Britain has done in recent years. That channels cash to the middle classes, further boosts prices, and it fuels the buildup of mortgage debt that makes crises more likely. Well, crackers, welcome to the Tier 1 YouTube club. Thanks, bud. It does not have to be this way. Wait, hold on. Wouldn't they do that even if they didn't live in their homes but were renting them to other people, though, Destiny? Yeah, anybody that owns property is going to generally be against new development, probably. Yeah. It does not have to be this way. Not everywhere is afflicted with every part of the housing curse. Tokyo, so we've read about this in the past, Japan is one of the only places in the world that doesn't have these problems. Tokyo has no property shortage. Between 2013 and 2017, it put up 728,000 dwellings, more than England did, without destroying quality of life. The number of rough sleepers has dropped by 80% in the past 20 years. Switzerland, what does this phrase mean? Rough sleepers. I don't know what that means. Someone who sleeps or lives outside because they have no home. Is this just a thing for homeless people then? Okay. The number of homeless people then has dropped by 80% in the past 20 years. Switzerland gives local governments fiscal incentives to allow housing development, one reason why there's almost twice as much home building per person as in America. New Zealand recoups some of homeowners' windfall gains through land and property taxes based on valuations that are frequently updated. Most important, in a few places, the rate of homeownership is low and no one bats an eyelid. It's just 50% in Germany, which is a rental sector that encourages long-term tenancies and provides clear and enforceable rights for renters. With ample supply and few tax breaks or subsidies for owner-occupiers, home ownership is far less alluring and the political clout of NIMBYs is muted. Despite strong recent growth in some cities, Germany's real house prices are, on average, no higher than they were in 1980. Home run. Is it possible to escape the home ownership fetish? Few governments today can ignore the anger over housing shortages and intergenerational unfairness. Some have responded with bad ideas like rent controls or even more mortgage subsidies. Yet there has been some progress. America has capped its tax break for mortgage interest payments. Britain has banned murky upfront fees from rental contracts and curbed risky mortgage lending. A fledgling YIMBY, yes, in my backyard, movement has sprung up in many successful cities to promote construction. Those, like this newspaper, who want popular support for free markets to endure, should hope that such movements succeed. Far from shoring up capitalism, housing policies have made the system unsafe, inefficient, and unfair. Time to tear down this rotten edifice and build a new housing market that works. There you go. I love in Discord how I have to scroll down 50 fucking channels to get to the voice chats. Given that Barrett is being confirmed Monday, how much do you see the Supreme Court influencing results of the election? Hopefully not at all. This article feels like a recap on everything Destiny already believes about homeownership. Yeah, this is all kind of stuff that we've all kind of talked about and know already. Can you explain why funds are better when you can get an upfront mortgage for houses, but you can't get a loan to invest in mutuals? I'm generally two-heading today. This is a really, really, really good question, okay? Why is it good? So, okay. So you're asking, you can get an upfront mortgage for a house, but you can't get a loan to invest in mutual funds. So why is it better to get mutual funds rather than a house when we can leverage, right? So leveraging is like, hold on, let me make sure I'm not fucking up my physics terms. This is a lever, right? Fuck. This would be a lever, right? This is the worst drawing of anything I've ever drawn in my entire life. Hold on, let me try this again. I think this is a lever. The reason why it's called leverage is because with a lever, right, with very little, you can do a lot, right? That's why it's called leverage, right? I don't know why I decided to draw that, but there you go. If you don't understand, that's why it's called it. So the reason why leverage is good is, let's say that I can do two things, okay? Man, I could make a spreadsheet. Just follow me in your head, okay? We could do two things. I could either buy a $100,000 house, and I could rent that $100,000 house out for $1,000 a month after buying it. Or I can use $100,000 to put a 10% down payment on a $1 million house, and I can use that $100,000 to make $10,000 a month, assuming it's 10 times in cost, maybe it's 10 times in rent. I'm using the same amount of money, but I'm leveraging it. I'm using $100,000 to borrow $900,000, and I'm going to make money off of that entire $1 million investment rather than just $100,000, right? This is leverage. The reason why it doesn't really matter that you're leveraging money to own your own house is because you're not being productive with that capital. If you wanted to leverage your money, if you wanted to take out a loan for a house and say, well, look, it's good I'm taking out a loan for a house. Okay, are you going to generate revenue with it? Because that's the only time that leverage makes sense. It's not leverage if I go to the store and I buy a whole bunch of things on my credit card and go home and enjoy them for myself. That's not leverage, right? That's just buying shit and taking out a loan for it, right? Yeah. So this is why. So leverage doesn't really make sense unless you're getting like a fuck ton of enjoyment, I guess, out of that house. But then, like I said, you're not making like a wise like financial decision to make more money. You are you're just doing something because there's like a luxury. There's a premium associated with it that you're willing to pay, basically. Houses appreciate in value, so it's productive. Houses don't necessarily always appreciate in value. And different areas of housing will increase at different rates. This is why I tend to prefer investments in the market. An investment in a market is probably going to rise, and that investment can rise irregardless or irrespective of where you live. If I make an investment in a piece of property and I decide that I want to leave, I can't. I'm literally locked there. I'm a fucking prisoner to my investment. I cannot leave my fucking house. If I want to leave and I want to sell it, and I do this in less than like 7 or 8 years of owning the property, then I've completely and totally thrown away every single cent I could have possibly gained on that property. It's just all gone. And depending on when I sell it, I might be under or upside down, meaning the total amount that I owe is far greater than the actual cost of the underlying asset that secures the loan. So for instance, I might take out a $500,000 mortgage on a house and maybe it's worth $400,000. So now when I sell it, I have to come up with a difference. There's just like a whole bunch of stuff that could go bad when it comes to buying a home versus renting. Now there might, hold on. When you rent, you pay a premium to the property owner. In most places in the country, that premium is at least 5% of the property's value per year. From an investor's point of view, that would be the cap rate. Would you acknowledge most of the time it's better to buy than rent if you're living in the same priced property, you're there for an extended period of time, and it's not a huge percent of your net worth? If you're going to stay in some house, if you're going to be there for a bare minimum of 5 years, then maybe it might be better to buy. That's when we can start talking about it, right? That's when we can start having the conversation. But depending on what comes up in those first 5 years, that window might grow to 10 or more years. So for instance, if you need to do like a big if you need to do like a big air conditioner replacement, or if you've got a big like asbestos problem, or if you've got to replace a roof, or if you have to redo a driveway, any one of these types of repairs can eat into so much of your equity, kind of. You're paying a cost to maintain your asset, that now you're looking at 10 years out until you start to like gain enough equity in the home for your investment to be worth it. Houses appreciate in value in general over time. On the aggregate, one can expect a given house to appreciate in value over the course of a decade. Wrong. You have the right terms, but you are using them very wrong. I can use these terms. So I can say markets appreciate in value in general over time on the aggregate. I can say that about markets because when I buy shares of Vanguard's S&P 500 ETFs, when I do that, that tracks the market over time in general on the aggregate. When you buy a single house, you do not know if that single house is going to track the aggregate over time. When you say houses increase in the aggregate over time, individual houses do not. Buying a house is the same as buying a stock, not buying a mutual fund, right? Those are two different things. Just because the markets in general rise over time, you should know this when trading stocks. Just because markets in general rise over time doesn't mean every single individual stock will rise over time. Hi, I'm sure you remember a few days ago on stream, you made fun of me in front of everybody by saying that I have a small penis. I would like to point out that just because you're a faction creator does not mean I think... Oh, I don't remember calling you small dick, but okay. How do you decide what to invest in? Like how much research does this take? Just invest in boring mutual funds if you don't want to research. That's what I do. I just buy a fucking ETF, buy boring shit. What if I buy 100 houses at a time? If you buy a lot of houses, well, now you're diversifying your investment. So yeah, you could do that. Shouldn't we really distinguish between buying a house in a small town suburb and buying property in a major city, New York City, or a European capital? Sure, but again, like there's risk associated with everything, right? Like what if you own property in New York right now? You're probably getting fucked hard, right? And it's hard to say like what's going to recover or what's not going to recover. I'm always confident that markets will recover. In fact, markets have recovered. I believe we're posting all-time highs again, right? Yeah, markets are back, baby. But your real estate definitely is not back, depending on where you're at. Would policies that help cover things like repairing asbestos/mold be a good thing? Sure, but now you're eating into the profit that you're gaining. Now you're having to take out insurance against your investment, right? Fuck. The risk mitigation of a house is that your demand for housing is extremely stable and that you always need a home. I reject that. I think that your demand for housing might be stable, but there's always going to be a supply of housing. Like, you can always get an apartment. Unless you need a particular house in a particular area, it's highly unlikely that you literally cannot find a place to live if you have the money to pay for a place to live. What about a condo? I have the option to throw it on $20K and my mortgage would only be $500 a month or so. I plan to stay there for 5 to 10 years. I mean, maybe it could be.
Vote Republican in 2020 to get these commies out of office, aka Democrats.
Good one. Is Peach already on the server? Oh, fuck. This fucking bitch.
Oh my god, so exciting. We made bread.
Don't REITs, an REIT is a real estate investment trust, I believe, have really bad tax issues on owners suffering them from a coursework. I thought they paid like 80% of revenues out as dividends, but I'm not a tax expert. I don't know 100%. Is policy equal insurance? Wait, yeah. Like a homeowner policy is your insurance. Yeah. What do you mean? You pronounce it like REIT. Yeah, sorry. In a financial crisis, getting your contractual rent money out of equities would be hard to do. That is why you satisfying your own housing demand reduces risk. Getting your contractual rent money out of equities would be hard to do. But you don't have to take your contractual rent money out of equities. You can just pay rent. If you can pay for a mortgage every month, you can probably pay rent every month. I'm assuming you have an income. I'm so hungry. I need a bowl of cereal and my fucking dishwasher's taking too long. What mortgage would you recommend? My recommendation for a mortgage is that you would get the longest, lowest interest rate mortgage. Whatever the lowest interest rate you can get, that is the longest fucking borrow period on it. That's what you should get.
Money. Put money on it. Money. Bet me.
Yes or no? Do you have a Taiwanese power supply inside your rig?
You've seen the power